Hello, I'm Chuck Phillips, and I've got a lot of videos I'm fixing to put here because they've already made. But anyway, I'm a retired home and commercial building inspector, and so my home is kind of like a UL laboratory. I usually have about a dozen experiments going on at any one time, and so I've evaluated thousands of products and different methods to mitigate the unique issues our homes face here in the Deep South due to the climate. And so this is going to be the fourth episode I've done on lightning. And if you go watch the other ones first, this one will make more sense. I'm going to do a fifth one on the installation of this. And so if you want to be aware of that, please put in the comments that you'd like for me to do that fifth episode. But also subscribe to this channel, click that notification bell, and that will let you know when the next episode is put up. It's believed that Benjamin Franklin was the very first one to discover that lightning was indeed electrical, and he did this by flying a kite with a silk string, which couldn't conduct electricity. And he had a key tied to the end of it, and when he put a metal object close to it, well, it flashed over to it. And that led to his first invention, I believe, of the lightning rod in 1763. In fact, it's called the Franklin rod. And they've been used ever since then all the way up until now. In fact, the lightning rod system I just recently installed is from 1950 that came off an old house in Missouri. One of the reasons I installed this system was we've had several lightning strikes around my house. You're looking at a tree right there that was struck last year. It just exploded and took out pretty much everything in my neighbor's house, including some stuff at mine. And then not too long after that, another one got struck right there. And so I started thinking, what measures should I take to protect my home? And that's when I started researching the possibility of using a lightning rod system to protect it. All right, guys, I'm on top of my roof after I just got finished installing the system. It took me about 3 weeks to do it, working on and off. It's also a very old lightning rod system as well. These rods are actually from the 1950s. It came off a house in Missouri. And so this is a unique thing I've invented myself. It's something I've engineered. These are some plastic PVC pipe sleeves that I put over my metal vents to reduce the chance of flashover from the main conductor up there to that. And so what I used up here was type L copper pipe and type L copper tubing to make these sweeps, because you're not supposed to have any sharp turns in this, as according to some of the experts I've listened to. Now, I've got these bonded pretty well to this type L copper pipe, and you can see a union there where I can actually disassemble it there as well. And I used these insulators to run this pipe through because I did not want it sitting directly on top of the roof, but I was fearful of the high amount of heat it might actually melt those shingles. It still might do it even at that height. There's the other union right there, so I can actually take this apart. And so these are some cobalt glass balls, and they actually do serve a purpose. They go way back hundreds of years, and that was to let people know that the system had been struck, that one of the balls were busted on it. And so I've got this thing running the entire length of my house and sideways as well. And it also serves as a roof misting system as well, because this is something I've engineered out of pipe, and so water will be going through this, through the misting nozzles on this, and it will keep my roof cool. I did some experiments with that this past summer with some plastic misting hose, and it lowered the temperature of my attic 30 degrees, which is substantial. And so you can see I'm going down this other side here, and got another piece of copper tubing there making this radius. And I'm coming up here to a TV antenna that I also have bonded to this as well, because it is higher than all the other points. Now, these rods are made of bronze, and of course some of the wiring electrodes, that's all copper too. Copper is the best conductor for electricity, far more so than aluminum, even though I suspect aluminum in some ways attracts lightning. That's just my own theory. And so this is where I come all the way to the other end here. I made another sweeping turn with this copper tubing. It really was a good product to work with because you can bend it. And so this goes all the way down to the ground, to the electrode on this side of the house. So I have 3 ground electrodes, and I also use those old insulators from back when I worked on the railroad. Used to go down the tracks. A lot of these things were still up. They were the telegraph wires that went between Mobile and New Orleans, and they were even used. Now, you can see these things have a very sharp point on these terminals, as they call them, also called the Franklin rod. And what that point does is eliminates the electrons from the system of your home into the atmosphere, which will reduce the likelihood of a strike. And that's the manufacturer that made it there. Like I say, this came off an old house in Missouri from 1950. And so they're still in very good condition. I got them off Etsy. And it came with a pack of 6, was the exact amount that I needed. It's a certain method that you have to use when you install these, because you don't want these spread too far apart. They can be too close together, but they can't be too far apart. Basically within 2 foot of any roof edge is where they should be. But I have a hip roof, and so therefore it's kind of a little bit different design that I had to go with when I did this. You can see the distance from the edge there. Okay, this is where I installed the down rods. I'm on the roof there, so I put one on the back right side, and then I put another at the back left side. These are supposed to be as separated as far as possible, and then I put another down electrode on the far left side front. And so these rods, like I say, were driven down 10 feet into the ground, and are bonded really well with copper down conductors. Now, I did not put a down rod on this side, even though I wanted to, and the reason I didn't do that is because I have a little bit of fear that this could flash over to the down electrode for my electrical system and then backfeed through that into my house. And so they claim that the more down rods you have, or ground rods that you have installed, the better. As far as my opinion goes about who needs a lightning rod system, that's pretty subjective, because pretty much every house that's above ground is vulnerable to it no matter where you live. However, if you live in some of these neighborhoods that doesn't have any trees, a lot of these neighborhoods have been built on farmland, and so where at one time the lone tree out in the middle of the field was the victim of lightning, well, now you've replaced that with your house being out there. And I think the only thing that's going to mitigate the chances of you've been struck by it is the more houses get built around you, the more likely one of them are going to be struck over yours. It's going to be like eeny, meeny, miny, moe, which one will I strike? And so I think if I lived in a neighborhood that didn't have a whole lot of trees in it, that I certainly would put a lightning arresting system on my home, and also a surge protecting system as well, which is different. It's possible that this radiant barrier could be an attractant to lightning based on my experiments. And so that also confirms my theory that lightning won't take the shortest path to ground. It'll take the most conductive path, because you can see from these photographs and some of these illustrations I did where it did just that. And so this is just a picture that I created here. It drew, what I think could potentially happen in a neighborhood with no trees. I mean, you could see where I drew this lightning strike. This didn't happen. That it would come over the highest house in the neighborhood and find the most conductive path, at the one that has the radiant barrier to it being the shorter home. All right, guys, in the interest of keeping this episode short, I'm going to go ahead and close it out with this statement here. I think if I lived in a neighborhood where there was no trees and mostly all houses around me, I would have a lightning rod system installed. Or if I was the only thing out in the middle of a field, and you're the highest point out there as well, I would have one put in. And if I had a radiant barrier system, I would certainly have one of these installed. Now, there was a lot I didn't know about this until I started doing all this research. I always thought that lightning rods would attract it to your home, and based on the research I've done, it can do the exact opposite of that. It can actually prevent a strike from occurring in the first place. But if one does happen, at least it will take it to a safe path to ground. And so I think regardless of where you live here in South Alabama, especially where we are, it would be a good idea to have one of these installed, because we are the lightning capital of South Alabama.
Hey everyone, this is meteorologist Lexi Birmingham, and we have received data that Mobile was the lightning capital of Alabama in 2022.
And I can tell you from living here my entire life that it's gotten much worse over the last few years. In fact, we're in December now and got a pretty big thunderstorm that's supposed to be happening this coming weekend. Also, check out the other episodes I have on this, because this will make more sense if you do. And tell your friends about this channel, and also share your information as well in the comments section down below, because it's about sharing the information, and I need to learn from you as well, because knowledge is savings. Thanks, guys, and y'all have a good one too.